Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a crime film from the UK, English language, released in the year 2009, directed by Daniel Barber, and this film is called Harry Brown. So Harry Brown is set in the UK. It's basically depicting the problems with the youth and how out of control youth are, and there's a lot of youth gangs, and the elderly people are actually living in fear. So you've got the main character of Harry, and he's got a friend. Now his friend actually admits to Harry that he's scared, and that he's armed himself with a massive bayonet, and he says that he has to take the law into his own hands because the police really aren't doing anything. So Harry says, don't do anything stupid, just be strong. But unfortunately, his friend ends up dead one day, and it's clear that he's been murdered. And so this infuriates Harry Brown. He wants justice for his friend because the police aren't going to do anything once again. And so he decides to clean up the streets himself and try and not only get justice for this man, but justice for society. So whether or not he can is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Harry Brown. This is definitely a movie that I was very late seeing. Now a lot of people have talked about this movie, but I just didn't really get around to seeing it. Now I'm a massive fan of Michael Caine, and ultimately that was the biggest draw point for this film, is that I'm a massive fan of the original Get Carter with Michael Caine, and I looked at the trailer of this film and I heard everyone talk about it, and it felt like a modern day sort of Get Carter. And so I thought, alright, well, Michael Caine being the legendary actor he is, if anything, I was just going to be able to see him in another film, and so I really didn't have anything to lose. But after watching Harry Brown, I will say that this was an absolutely fantastic movie. This is a movie about vengeance. This is a movie about society and how different the youth are today and how out of control the youth are, and just because someone's very young, it doesn't make them any less dangerous. And I thought, alright, well, the community that these characters are actually in was very dangerous, and when you actually don't feel safe and the police that are sworn to protect you can't really do much in order to provide that safety, it's basically vigilante justice and that cathartic violence. And I thought, alright, well, everything is there to make a movie about revenge, but it's also something that you really look at. You look at society's downfall, you look at society's problems. Why was Harry Brown forced to actually dish out his own sense of justice when the police have all the methods in order to do this, but they just can't quite do it because the law not only works for them, but it also works against them? And so it was just a really tricky situation. And so when you don't really condone vigilante violence, in this case you could almost do that, because Harry, he was such a good person, and this is a character that was made even better by Michael Caine's performance. It's a very subdued performance. It's a performance that doesn't need theatrics, and that just indicates how good an actor Michael Caine is. And so I thought this is absolutely perfect for him. As I said, it reminded me of Get Carter. I'm not really going to compare the two films, because although they are revenge sort of based, they still have a place on their own. And so this movie is very, very gritty. It's very, very brutal, and I thought the brutality and the cinematography, everything mixes in to make a very stressful situation. The stressful situation has come to boiling point, and you know everything is going to explode, and no one's really going to come out of it in the end. And so I thought, alright, well, the promise of a happy ending was never there, and so because it's never there, it does provide something of suspense, because you're never quite sure where Daniel Barber is actually going to take us on this very, very dark journey. I thought the cinematography, as I said, very, very good. There was a scene in particular with two drug dealers that I thought was harrowing, and that just basically nails everything that this movie wants to do. It wants to show you the ugly underbelly of society, and as I said, the youth and how they grow up today, and how they don't have any respect for their authority, and how authority are letting down the people they've sworn to protect, but also creating that air of authority that if you break the law, you're going to have consequences. But when people don't have any respect for those consequences, how dangerous that can be. And so it was a really harsh reality that Daniel Barber throws at you, in a way where on one hand you can marvel at the fact that it is so brutal and so dark, but on one hand you've got the violence that is very hard hitting, but you've also got cathartic violence as well, where Harry Brown is exacting his revenge. And so it's not trying to hit you over the head with a depiction of society and giving you a lecture about how bad we are as people. It's using that as a template, but it also has that sort of vigilante justice, revenge aspect to the film that you can actually be entertained by. And there were a few moments that made me chuckle, and it's just the way that Michael Caine delivers his lines. Everyone else involved, you got Jack O'Connell, who's a very good young actor. He was one of the ruffians. He's one of the riffraff that was in this movie. And everyone, Liam Cunningham is also in this movie. He was much more of a cameo. Liam Cunningham is a very good Irish actor. He was also in Game of Thrones. He's been in Dog Souls. He's been in a whole host of films and it was good to see his face in there as well. So you got some really high caliber acting to mix in with some really high caliber directing. So if you are a fan of revenge movies and vigilante justice, this is definitely one to look out for, because I just thought that was exceptionally well made. It was actually quite heartfelt through Michael Caine's performance, and it has that cathartic sort of entertainment value that doesn't feel like it's out of place, because everything has a very similar tone. So the director juggles it very, very well, and it comes across as a very competently made movie. It's one that I would highly recommend, especially if you're a fan of Michael Caine and films such as Get Carter, the original, not the Sylvester Stallone remake, although the remake wasn't bad, it pales in comparison to the original. But yeah, it's just one of those movies where it does take a look at society, but it's not enough to really hit you over the head with a lecture. It's allowing you to really enjoy other aspects of the film that make up what a good revenge movie should be all about. So overall, this is a fantastic film. Go out there and see it. I'm going to give Harry Brown 4.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.